Alright, so Chernobylite 2 just launched on Steam and it's early access at the moment. Please do take note of that. So any of the performance metrics you see here might be different from the final game. I'm not sure how long the game will be in early access. But yeah, we are testing it with the RTX 5080 and we've got 32 gigabytes of DDR5 6400 megatransfers per second CL30 memory and a 7800 X3D CPU. Now, the game stutters quite a bit. It's an Unreal Engine 5 game. Let me just show you the settings here quickly. Currently, we are at, if I can just find it, we are at 1440p and the cinematic preset. Okay, so we are using DLSS Ultra Quality, but it is the resolution scale 100%. So this Ultra Quality is actually DLAA, and then everything else is set to cinematic. So when you enable cinematic preset here, it does tell you that it is for future hardware. So I'm just going to start off testing it. I don't think this is a fair representation of the performance, but just to give you an idea, right, in case you, oops, that's the wrong button, just in case you were wondering what the cinematic preset looks like. And I have to say that 30 frames per second is kind of it's not my forte. 40-ish frames per second input latency is quite bad, and I don't think it is what I'd personally be playing at. All right, so even though the graphics might look good, I don't know, the game doesn't look fantastic. I'd actually looked into this game, thought it would be a nice Stalker 2-ish on a budget RPG, and I have to say that the RPG elements aren't bad at all. The little bit that I played about an hour or so just to get a feel for the game before I start recording, and it's really not terrible at the moment. It's just the performance is kind of lacking, as we have started to expect from Unreal Engine 5 games, right? So cinematic preset, I don't think it is the way to go. The options aren't really that descriptive. So if we go to our graphic options here, it just says cinematic. It doesn't explain anything regarding the option. So I don't know if it uses hardware ray tracing or software ray tracing Lumen. If it only uses Lumen, and if you do change the settings to higher settings, does it start using hardware ray tracing, that kind of stuff? I don't know. So let's just try DLSS set to quality here without any frame generation at the moment. I also only think it supports DLSS frame generation, although you can enable frame generation when you select FSR. I'm not sure if it is actually FSR frame generation. All right, so let's just get back into our game here. And now we are basically at 60 frames per second here with the ultra or the cinematic preset. It does drop below 60 frames per second, as can be seen here. Now, this game might not be for everybody, right? I don't think it's a full open world. You are in the exclusion zone here, but the little bit I've played so far is basically different worlds, so parallel worlds and stuff. So I'm not sure if it is actually going to be a full open world experience. So far it hasn't been, but maybe that changes. So not able to maintain 60 frames per second here. Definitely a little bit of an issue, although you are being warned when you do enable the cinematic preset. So let's go. I don't think we're going to be testing even frame generation at the cinematic preset. DLSS quality is fine. I'm at the wrong setting here. So let's just go with the DLAA again, and then just drop this down to the ultra preset. Make sure everything's set to ultra. And if we have a look at our frame rate now, we more than doubled our frame rate going from cinematic to ultra. Okay, I think that's a big jump. And once again, as I said, I'm not sure what the cinematic preset actually enables for it to be that heavy, but it is very heavy. This is a much better experience. Without any upscaling, we are well above 60 frames per second, and you'd expect that from an RTX 5080, right? The third fastest GPU that you can buy currently. I mean, it's a little bit faster than a 7800 XT, a little bit faster than a 4080, a 7900 XTX, I mean, a little bit faster than a 4080, though not by much, and a few percent, 10-15% slower than a 4090, depending on which game you play. I might die because I can't really see my health bar, but I do see my stamina, and this is definitely a much better experience, although the stuttering is still it's quite annoying. We do see, well, we do have a shader compilation step every time you start the game. The first time was maybe a minute, subsequent startups a few seconds, so not too worrying. And the ultra preset here I think does okay. So let's go ahead and then just enable DLSS here. Let's see. Once again, I keep on, sorry about that, keep on going to the wrong setting there. So let's do DLSS quality, which is 67% render resolution scale. So I think we should be able to get 120 frames per second here, and 110 frames per second it is. It should be well above a 90 frames per second most of the time, right? That's what I saw in my previous testing as well. And I still have to get used to the controls here. It does look like an interesting game. Once again, it's early access, so performance might differ completely in the launch version, although it doesn't always happen, right? It rarely happens where performance is much improved in a launch version. But we've seen it before with the stuttering, for instance, Robocop Rogue City. Talking about a demo, the demo was horrible when it comes to stuttering. The dev actually patched the demo itself to reduce the stuttering, and then the final game had very little, even though it was an Unreal Engine 5 game. So 100 and something frames per second here, not terrible, although our 0.1% lows are pretty bad. So let's go ahead and just test frame generation quickly, then we'll test the high preset, and then we'll move on to 4K. All right, so just frame generation enabled here. Let's go back into our game here, and I'm testing this. Basically, I've got an external PC or a second PC where an external capture card is connected to, so I don't record locally, and the capture card is also only set to 60 Hertz. It can go up to 240 Hertz, but there's no point because YouTube videos will be 60 frames per second anyway. So if you do see tearing, it is because of the capture card, right? I don't see any tearing because I do play at a 1440p 165 Hertz panel. So 190 frames per second, depending on where we are. I think I actually went the wrong way here. We are back where we started, but it's not a terrible experience, this, although the stuttering is still pretty bad. So let's go ahead and just see what the high preset looks like. Maybe we can reduce some stuttering by just using the high preset. We'll use DLAA again, and without any frame generation. Now we were getting around 80-ish frames per second on the ultra preset, and we are basically getting now on the high preset what we were getting on the ultra preset with DLSS, right? Or DLSS set to quality. You can just see the stuttering. It is annoying. It is frequent. And it's just it's Unreal Engine stuff. Unfortunately, it's really annoying. So I don't think there are many more enemies. Yeah, but it's probably because I'm going the wrong way again, and there's no more. There we go. There's a marker. I was lying. Okay, so 112 frames per second there, but look at our 1% and 0.1% lows as we traverse the map here. We are sitting at 7, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes lower than that. It's when it comes to stuttering, it is a very, very, very bad experience at times. Now, this is the first time I'm running past this specific area, so it does seem to still compile shaders on the go as you enter new areas, because I don't think it is a traversal stutter. You can see if we run past the same spot again, it wouldn't have the same exact stutters, which means it's not a traversal stutter. And we've got a cutscene here, but I actually have to fight some big guy over here. I'm just going to go ahead and skip that because it's going to affect all that. I'm probably going to die. I wasn't supposed to come here. I'm not ready for this. I don't have enough ammo. Yeah, this is going to be is it going to be a rough fight? Maybe not. Maybe not as rough as I expected. Until I run out of ammo, right? And I'm not that good with melee because these guys just block all the time. And let's see if I can fight. He might have 2 health bars if you look at the top and the bottom. Once again, not very familiar with this franchise. I do like Stalker more, but I thought I'd give Budget Stalker a little bit of a taste. Although I honestly don't think it except for the fact that it does play off in the exclusion zone. I don't think it is a very similar game. Did we beat him? We did. All right. Got some decent gear. I'm actually happy that we beat him. So I don't have to do this again. All right. So average there of 107 frames per second or 0.1% lows are horrible. Very, very, very bad. I'm going to save and then actually, I do lie. Let's just go ahead and enable frame generation, not frame generation, DLSS quickly, because I do think we're a native. Yeah, so DLAA. Now we've got DLSS set to quality. Let's see if we do get a high refresh rate experience. We didn't gain much. Okay, so we gained maybe, okay, yeah, it's starting to pick up now. We might actually be CPU bound. Although our GPU usage is saying we are at 97% usage, our power draw dropped quite considerably, and so did our temperature for the GPU. It's very warm here at the moment. It's like 35°C outside, so everything in the room is extremely hot. Okay, so 136 frames per second here with the DLSS set to quality, and if we then go ahead and enable frame generation, we will, I mean, we should be getting around, what, 200 frames per second at times, hopefully. Let's see. All right, so starting off 205 frames per second here, decent enough, except for the stutters. Like the overall performance is really not horrible, okay, considering that it is Unreal Engine 5, but the stuttering is, I don't know, so something has to be done with the Unreal Engine 5's stuttering issues, because I do know that some of the later versions, 5.4 and 5.5, reduce them, but it's horrible, especially when a game doesn't look particularly good. Okay, like the game doesn't look bad, it's just not wow, but it could be the color palette. But I think the stuttering is really putting a lot of people off from Unreal Engine 5, and myself included. All right, so 100 and I actually just want to reach my checkpoint because we I think it did save there, so that's good. I need to quit back into Windows to change my desktop resolution to 4K before I can set the resolution to 4K in game. Kind of annoying. Anyway, 198 frames per second here on average, and 1% less is sitting at 48 and 0.1% less sitting at 20. That's terrible. All right, so here we are at 4K cinematic. I just look at that RAM usage, 27 gigabytes of RAM usage and 14 gigabytes of VRAM usage, 20 frames per second here. The RAM usage is insane, right? We are going to start running out of normal system RAM, and I've only got 32 gigabytes. I never thought I'd say I only have 32 gigabytes, but this is kind of crazy. All right, so cinematic preset not going to happen. Just one thing that I want you to note here, although if I do go to display settings, it does say 1440p. It's not 1440p. The only way I could get it to 4K is my monitor's resolution is set to 4K, and I select windowed full screen, and then it's 4K, right? I can't change the resolution, and if I select full screen, I can't select 4K. So anyway, I verified that it is 4K. So let's go down to let's leave it on the cinematic preset. I want to see if we go to DLSS Ultra Performance, which is 33% render resolution, so 720p. I want to see if we actually get a playable experience here. Okay, it might have been a little bit too aggressive here, because okay, we doubled our frame rate. Okay, there it goes, 60 something frames per second. It probably took a little while, but okay. I mean, it looks good at 4K. Even Ultra Performance doesn't look horrible, but wow, a lot of concessions have to be made here to be able to play the game at 4K cinematic settings. Not even a 5090 would be able to do it at DLSS quality, I believe. So kind of rough, but once again, I'm not going to diss the performance. As I said, you do get warned that cinematic preset is extremely heavy, so not going to be worried too much about that. So let's drop this down to the high preset or the ultra preset and see what happens here. All right, so just the ultra preset and no upscaling and no frame generation. Let's see if we can hit 60 frames per second. Actually, this is pretty good. So 4K native resolution here. On the ultra preset, I think the game looks better now, though. Textures definitely aren't that great. I don't think the game, does it use nanite? I don't know, it doesn't look like it. We are getting still 25 gigabytes of system memory used. That is a lot. I wanted to show you that earlier as well. Even at 1440p, you can go back, you can see that the system RAM usage is incredibly high. Okay, but over here we are seeing a decent a playable experience, right? I don't think it's horrible. So the 5080 at 4K native, basically 60 frames per second on the ultra preset. It does drop below, but not by much. All right, so let's go ahead and enable some upscaling. Yeah, I think DLSS quality would be perfectly fine here, actually, if you're not chasing an extremely high refresh rate experience. And it should stay above 60 frames per second at all times using DLSS quality here. VRAM usage dropped quite a bit. Quite a lot. Wow. Okay. We're sitting at 9 gigs used, where previously we were sitting at around 14 gigabytes used. So the ultra preset is definitely the way to go if you do have a 5080. I think 4080, 4090, 4070 Ti Super and 4K on the ultra preset, DLSS quality would be perfectly fine, except for the stuttering. Stuttering is still inexcusable. Okay, so let's go ahead. We do have enough of a base frame rate to actually start using frame generation. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and enable that. Let me just see. I forgot to put up the latency numbers earlier. Let me see if I can get that going quickly. Right, I do have the latency numbers up, but it's showing on my secondary screen, which I'm using just to monitor stuff. And I mean, it's sitting between 40 and 50 milliseconds of latency, PC latency, that is. That's not bad at all. It's actually it's around cyberpunk territory with the frame generation enabled as well. And at 4K ultra preset DLSS quality, I don't think it's too bad. I mean, we do have frame generation enabled. Okay, so I'm going to do one more test here with these exact same settings. I'm going to actually, I lie, not these exact same settings. So let's first just drop frame generation, and I'm going to drop this down to DLSS performance. Okay, so DLSS performance at 4K still looks fine. A lot of people use DLSS performance at 4K, especially when you do upgrade to the new DLSS 4 transformer model. It looks fantastic at 4K. And now the PC latency is 47, 44 milliseconds. So the frame generation didn't add me a lot of latency here. Although I don't think that you can natively enable reflex in this game without enabling frame generation. Enabling frame generation does enable reflex, and that might account for the lower or similar input latency or PC latency. But this is actually perfectly fine. I think visuals look okay. Performance at 4K ultra, not horrible. A little bit heavy, as is expected of Unreal Engine 5 game, but the stuttering is still a big issue. All right, so let's go ahead to frame generation, and then we'll just drop this down to the high preset as well, see what kind of gains we get, and if it is enough to get a high refresh rate experience. Now PC latency is sitting at 38, 37 milliseconds. So definitely reflex is not being enabled without frame generation. The moment you enable frame generation, reflex gets enabled, and you do see a lower PC latency. So that's it's kind of sad that you can't enable reflex without enabling frame generation, but it is quite good that we are not seeing very adverse effects when it comes to PC latency when frame generation is used. At least I think it is actually quite okay. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Other people will find it completely unplayable. I don't mind. Okay, so we have an average there of 128. 1% low sitting at 50, and this, once again, our 0.1% lows are sitting at 90, and that's just horrible. All right, so here we are on the high preset, DLSS set to ultra quality, so 100% render resolution scale. Let's just go ahead and apply that, and let's see. We should be. So this is basically a little bit higher than what we had with DLSS set to quality on the ultra preset, right? So this is just the high preset, still 4K native. Frame time's quite horrible. Actually, well, I tested this area a little bit earlier as well, just to get a feel for the game, and I saw Like the 0.1% lows of 15 frames per second. Okay, there we go. 1710. It's horrible. Okay, so 80-ish frames per second. I think if you are looking for a 4K native experience, this is actually, the high preset is pretty good. You can get a 4K 60 experience without any upscaling, without any frame generation. So let's go ahead and just enable some upscaling. We should be able to get closer to 100 frames per second consistently, maybe 90-ish frames per second. Right. All right. Okay, so exactly 100 frames per second standing still. Yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. Okay, so let's just move around a little bit. Let's see if it maintains 100 frames per second. That's actually not bad. Getting, I'd say 120 frames per second basically is a high refresh rate experience, and we are almost there without any frame generation. PC latency is sitting at 37 milliseconds, and oops, and I might die. There's quite a few guys, yeah. Although I do quite a lot of damage with my melee weapon. I do run out of stamina a lot with my melee weapon as well. I should be able to get some bullets here. Let's see. Can I? Okay, let's see. There we go. Got 30 bullets. So 110 frames per second. Once again, the 0.1% lows are bad, but as I said, I'm not going to keep on saying that. It is what it is. Unreal Engine 5. And as I said, this game might have the excuse of being an early access version of game. It might be improved. All right, so last test. I think if we just go to if we then just enable frame generation, you know, let's see, 140 frames per second on the table. You're at 4K. Let's see, just shy. Okay, so 130-ish FPS here. PC latency is sitting at 38, so pretty much the same as what it was without frame generation. And as I said, I think it's because we don't have a reflex or the option to enable a reflex without frame generation. So once you start enabling frame generation, you do get the benefit of reflex. Okay, I don't think I'm going to waste too much of your time further. I think this is the end of the video. Not terrible performance here overall, right? Except on the cinematic preset, and then just the stuttering and the lows are pretty bad. But overall, the frame rate is not too terrible if you do use the ultra or the high preset. All right, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one.